Hey C3 family, as we step into the fall season, we're going to be making a few adjustments to our gatherings and to our live stream schedule. Since late March, we have done our absolute best to serve everyone in our church family while navigating the often changing and sometimes contradictory requirements placed on us for social distancing. A few weeks to flatten the curve and reduce the pressure on hospitals has turned into a social and economic shutdown, still with no end in sight. 6 months in, we're able to look at the numbers not only in our region but around the entire world, and a few things become clear. This virus, while serious, is nowhere near as dangerous as originally thought. The vast majority of people infected with COVID-19 experience flu-like symptoms and they recover. The CDC recently released statistics showing the average age of those dying of COVID is 78. It also showed that 94% of those who died had more than 2 pre-existing conditions like heart or lung disease. As a side note, the average age expectancy in the United States is also 78 years of age. In no way am I minimizing the death of anyone who has died of COVID-19. Every time a person created by God dies, it's a tragedy. On average, 7,000 Americans die each and every day, and that does not include the additional 1,700 horrendous abortions that take place daily. And every single death is an absolute tragedy. According to the CDC, this year from February to September, 1.8 million people died in the United States. 170,000 of those died with COVID-19. Only 10,000 of those who died solely of COVID. Of critical importance is the fact that the overall deaths in the United States in 2020 are on track with the number of deaths in the United States in 2019. Unfortunately, the restrictions imposed upon society through social distancing have brought, in my opinion, greater damage than the disease itself. The impact on mental, emotional, and physical health has been devastating. Suicide attempts have skyrocketed, drug and alcohol abuse are at an all-time high, anxiety and depression have caused prescriptions to surge through the roof. Sexual and physical abuse are also at all-time highs, along with crime. People have lost jobs, businesses have shut down, and our economy has been severely impacted. Part of the devastation includes the inability of the church to gather. Initially, the decision to stop gathering, it was very wise. We needed to find out what we were dealing with. But in light of the statistics we now have, unless you or someone you are close to has pre-existing conditions, there are few reasons that are practical not to gather. I'd also submit to you that some of the restrictions seem to be especially anti-Christian in their motivation. You can get on an airplane with every one of the 160 plus seats filled for hours with 11 other people within your 6-foot bubble, and you can remove your face mask to snack for the entire trip. And I have absolutely no problem with that. But in some regions, you can't gather as a church for worship, and if you can, there could be no more than 25 people gathered at a time, socially distancing, but singing as band, even if you have a mask on. The city of Seattle, Washington, who regularly allows violent protesters to gather, especially in their parks, to plan their attacks on businesses and neighborhoods, this past weekend, when they heard that Sean Feucht was bringing his Let Us Worship rally to the Gasworks Park, they fenced off the entire park and refused anyone entry. Those trying to attend were told that their right to assemble was no longer a right. Now, I'm thankful that I live in the United States of America with a constitution that governs us all, where the First Amendment states, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people to peacefully assemble and to petition the government for redress of grievances. Some have said to me, Pastor Steve, it's not a big deal. We could still have church online. For a time that may be true, but for how long? God's word prioritizes believers gathering together in person regularly with a promise that he would be present to do the miraculous. I love these three verses. In Luke chapter 19, verse 47, Jesus could be found daily in the temple. Acts 5:42, the early disciples were in the temple every day, teaching and preaching that Jesus was the Christ. And in Hebrews chapter 10, verses 24 through 25, we're instructed as follows: let us consider how to stir up one another to love and to good works, not neglecting to meet together as is the habit of some, but encouraging one another all the more as you see the day drawing near. Gathering becomes a habit, one gathering at a time. And not gathering also becomes a habit, one gathering at a time. Have you considered why it is so important to gather in person? Have you considered the detriments of not gathering regularly? For you, for your children, for your grandchildren. Did you know that by this time last year, our church had 71 decisions to follow Jesus, and we baptized 40 people? This year, during online church, we had one person officially raise their digital hand to let us know they decided to follow Jesus. We've had 0 water baptisms. Maybe we're not doing as good a job online as we do in person, but what about the 71 people that couldn't say yes this year because we weren't there? They might have reduced the risk of catching COVID, but how does their failure to hear the gospel impact their eternity? Let's be honest, there's a very real drift that takes place in everyone's life, mine included, when the practice of regularly gathering is taken away. When face-to-face encouragement is decreased, when corporate prayer doesn't happen, when voices are silenced, when people can't use their gifts to serve one another, when they become disconnected from a large portion of their calling and their purpose. Sadly, some people have drifted so significantly, they have detached from their Christian walk altogether. And that might not be you, but make no mistake, all of us have drifted in some measure. And that drift falls short of what God intends. How many incredible things have you and I, or your children and grandchildren, missed out during the last 6 months as we have been absent from the house of God? Sure, we've been able to spend more time together bonding as families, and that's good. But bonding apart from God's house will never accomplish all that God intends. Let me say this: there should be an urgency in the heart of every one of us to be in the house of God, gathered with others, experiencing God's supernatural presence, to be equipped to impact the people in our world. In light of all this, we are making a shift. Southridge Middle School is not yet available to us. So this Sunday, we will be starting off with 2 live gatherings at the C3 Hub. The 9 a.m. will be geared primarily at adults, and the 11 a.m. will include kids' activities for all of our children. We will add additional services as needed. There's going to be plenty of hand sanitizer and extra masks for those who may want one. I know this is common sense, but hey, if you're sick, stay home. For those who will be unable to attend due to pre-existing conditions or honestly for any other reason, we love you, we appreciate you, we honor you. We'll continue to serve you by streaming our gatherings on Facebook. We'll post them later up on YouTube. We look forward to seeing you when you're able to return. I think I finally understand the depth of what King David meant when he said, I was glad when they said to me, let us go into the house of the Lord. As always, thank you for your love and support. Rowena and I will see you soon.